Agnes is a beautiful 24-year-old woman, lovely, with a sculptural body and light eyes, married to 25-year-old Alberto. The couple seemed to be living very well and peacefully for a good while. Alberto was the son of Geraldo, a 43-year-old man, very healthy, fond of sports like running, swimming, and took very good care of his health. He was not a man to sit idly by, watching things pass by. Geraldo owned a company in which his son would be the heir. Geraldo got along very well with his daughter-in-law and considered her as his second daughter. He wanted very much to love, if he didn't see the time for his son to give him some. But, for some reason, Agnes wasn't getting pregnant, and it didn't seem to bother Alberto, who didn't seem to like the idea of being a father. Agnes, on the other hand, wanted to be a mother and felt very bad for not having a baby in her arms. Geraldo was increasingly concerned about why Agnes wasn't getting pregnant. In general, he said, "My daughter, let it be clear that I don't want to pressure you, but you need to get a medical exam to find out which of you has infertility problems, whether it's you or my son. That way, I want to avoid problems and fights between us, and when the results are ready, let me know even if the result is frustrating," he said to his father-in-law. "Mr. Geraldo, I will take the exams with your son. I'll claim it's a routine exam," Agnes replied. Geraldo agreed and shook hands with his daughter-in-law. After much insistence, Alberto and Agnes underwent the exams. Without Alberto knowing, in the midst of these exams, they were doing a fertility test. The results showed that Agnes could have children normally. In fact, the problem was Alberto, who couldn't have children. This left Agnes very sad, without ground. She went to look for Geraldo and showed him the test results. Geraldo was sad to know that he wouldn't be a grandfather, but Agnes comforted him and said, "Mr. Geraldo, not all is lost, and I believe the solution is to undergo artificial insemination. I know it will be expensive, but I will give children to my husband, even if they are not his." At that moment, Geraldo devised a plan in his mind and said with a smile, "I agree, my daughter-in-law. Don't worry. Just tell me where the clinic will be for this insemination, because I want to be informed." Agnes, feeling embarrassed, replied, "Don't worry. I will tell you. I hope everything goes well." Thus, the father-in-law and daughter-in-law shook hands and gave each other a friendly hug. But Agnes had no idea what destiny was preparing for her, and, as promised, she told him where the clinic would be for the insemination. Geraldo, aware of this, would soon act. After a successful insemination, Agnes would become a mother, as she wanted, and soon told Geraldo the news. Although she didn't know who the anonymous donor was, she said he must be a man similar to her husband and have his characteristics. At that moment, Agnes saw a triumphant look on Geraldo's face. At first, she thought it was the excitement of the mature man, but she accepted that look from her father-in-law just fine. After 3 months, Geraldo and Agnes decided to surprise Alberto. They organized a simple dinner at their house, where Geraldo helped. As it was an intimate moment for the couple, Geraldo decided to hide and see his son's reaction. When Alberto arrived home, he was serious and asked, "Why all this? What's going on? Explain it to me now." Agnes naively said, "Love, I want you to see this. I'm sure you'll love it." And she showed him a positive pregnancy test. Alberto's reaction was one of fury and anger. He said, "Who was the idiot who got you pregnant? If you want to know, I can't have children because I had a vasectomy a few months ago." Agnes, astonished, said, "What do you mean? I thought you had infertility problems and you had a vasectomy?" "Why, Alberto, no one can force me to be a father as I have no obligation to have children with you," Alberto retorted, indignant and furious. And he added another bombshell. "And also because I fell in love with another woman. I want to have children, yes, but not with you, but with her. She's the one I love, not you. Yes, I have a lover. I want to divorce you. That's why I had this reversible vasectomy done." At that moment, Geraldo, upon hearing what his son said to Agnes, came out of the room where he was hiding and, with a furious expression, shouted at his son, "Alberto, so you had a reversible vasectomy to not have children with Agnes? And here I was thinking you had infertility problems. You disappointed me." With all his anger, Geraldo slapped Alberto's face. Seeing his father in that place, Alberto, scared, said, "Dad, what are you doing here? Please, I don't love Agnes anymore. I found another woman, and I want to be happy with her. Understand that." Geraldo angrily replied, "My mistake was not raising you better. I did everything for you to be a good person." And he revealed a channel. "What a disappointment, father," said Alberto. Father and son argued throughout that night. Agnes, very frustrated with Alberto's betrayal, decided that it was no longer worth fighting for a marriage that was dead. And Alberto's revelation only closed the coffin lid and buried this union for good. After a long time, when the assets were divided, Alberto divorced Agnes and went to live with his lover. Geraldo was very disappointed with his son, and the relationship with Alberto soured completely, cutting off his relationship with his son. However, he stood by Agnes the whole time, and even though he was separated from his son, Geraldo did not abandon his daughter-in-law. He supported Agnes and did not turn his back on his daughter-in-law. He took care of the pregnant woman, but Alberto practically didn't want to know anything else about Agnes. However, Geraldo continued to support his daughter-in-law. Still, he allowed Agnes to live in his mansion during her pregnancy. After completing the gestation period, Agnes gave birth to twins, 2 healthy and perfect boys. Agnes was very happy, but Geraldo seemed even happier with the children and played with them. The dedication that Geraldo had to those babies was such that Agnes was amazed. She saw it as a happiness for her father-in-law, who seemed to have a much more unconditional affection and love. Agnes was happy with her father-in-law's support and how he supported her, but as time passed and the children changed their appearance, Agnes began to notice how much her sons were resembling her father-in-law, with his blue eyes and hair. She knew she had undergone artificial insemination and didn't know who the anonymous donor was who had donated his genetic material. Another unexpected day, Geraldo decided to be honest and said, "Agnes, I want to confess something to you. I know you might hate me," but Agnes interrupted and said, "My dear father-in-law, you don't need to tell me anything. I already know that my children are your children, and I don't even need to do a DNA test. Their eyes and hair are yours. The only thing I want to understand is why you." Geraldo, embarrassed and shy, said, "I decided to do this so that my son would feel that the child was his, not feel impotent, useless. But after that revelation where he humiliated you, said he had a lover, I did all that. I was disappointed because I wanted these boys to be a gift for him." And Agnes, smiling, added, "A gift he denied and didn't want. But now I can understand why you dedicated yourself to the boys every day since they are your children. I'm glad you told me the truth." And Geraldo, still embarrassed, said, "But aren't you angry with me? Don't you feel outraged? If you don't want to look me in the face anymore, I understand. But at least let me be close to the boys. I love them very much." But Agnes said, confidently, "Your son's betrayal and infidelity hurt me much more. These children are not guilty of anything. They are innocent, and they deserve our love and affection. I won't judge you, God judges." Thus, the father-in-law and daughter-in-law reconciled and regained trust and friendship. But soon this would unite them in a much stronger way. The friendship between the father-in-law and the daughter-in-law seemed to grow stronger, and a bond was created between them. Geraldo was a widower, free and unattached, while Agnes, even though she was 19 years younger than Geraldo, was separated, free and unattached. Over time, Geraldo developed a special affection for Agnes, and she seemed to reciprocate. And as it had been a long time since Alberto went to live with his lover, he didn't even care about Agnes, and his relationship with his father was cold, as he did not approve of his relationship with the lover. Time passed, and Geraldo seemed to have strong feelings for Agnes, and he also didn't imagine that Agnes did too. But in his heart, Geraldo said, "I'm in love with Agnes, but I think she will never love me. Maybe she still has feelings for my son, and I don't want to force her to love me. But only time will tell if I'm worthy or not. I may seem like a clumsy old man to her, but I just want to be truly reciprocated." With all his courage, Geraldo decided to declare himself to Agnes, even risking hearing a no. When setting up a meeting with her, a private restaurant, Geraldo declares and says, "Agnes, as strange as it may seem, maybe you are confused. I want to say that I am nurturing feelings for you, and it's not just because you are the mother of my children, but what I feel is true. Would you like to be my girlfriend? Even if you tell me no, I will respect your decision." But Agnes, amazed, said, "Believe me, I seem to feel something for you too. I don't know why, but I think you finally removed Alberto from my heart. However, the problem is the judgments and insults we will face. Are you willing to face all this for love?" And Geraldo, smiling with happiness, said, "I don't care what they say. I know I will be judged by religious conservatives and others, but they should understand that it was my son who betrayed you and did all those things. I'm willing to face everything for love. I won't care what they say. And you, are you sure? Do you want to move forward with me and together raise our children and give them a dignified life?" Agnes replied, "Yes," and accepted Geraldo's proposal. So, Agnes decided to give it a chance and see where all this would end up, and Geraldo, laughing, said, "Please, don't call me Mr. Geraldo anymore. Just call me Geraldo. Now, I'll be the man of your life, and you're the woman of mine. Let's move forward. My son Alberto didn't appreciate you, but I promise I'll do everything for you. We'll be very happy, even if I live for just a few more years. I'll do everything to make sure we live the best years of our lives. I promise you, even if it's the last thing I do." And so, Agnes and Geraldo hugged, and for the first time, they kissed as they had imagined. Many criticized and others approved, but some preferred not to get involved. However, Geraldo and Agnes didn't care. Everyone thought the ex-father-in-law was just a comfort to Agnes, without realizing that indeed a true feeling was blossoming between them. The couple walked down the street with their children and didn't care about judgments. In fact, they weren't doing anything wrong, but he always spoke frankly to people and said, "Funny how you're bothered by my relationship with Agnes. You're throwing stones at my relationship, but about my son who attracted her and left her for a mistress, you say nothing. Why? Please tell me." After that, people saw it was a true relationship and even found it strange but interesting. Over time, Geraldo decided to marry Agnes. The admired woman accepted the proposal from the mature man. With 5 months of preparation, they married in a simple ceremony reserved only for friends and acquaintances, who were amazed by this unusual union. Alberto wasn't invited, and he shouldn't have been, as he was happy with his mistress and didn't even know that his father and his ex-wife, who would now be his stepmother, were getting married. After having the vasectomy reversed, Alberto finally had a child with his mistress and believed that would change his relationship with his father. Geraldo and Agnes are on their honeymoon, and the couple, strong in their love, surrender to each other body and soul. They carry on with their lives, and a few months later, an unbelievable surprise. Agnes got pregnant again. Geraldo was even happier, and a third baby is on the way, but this time conceived naturally. Completing the gestation period, they had a daughter. The girl, along with the twins, brought joy to Geraldo's life, and the man said, "I may not have had grandchildren, but I am happy with the children I have, all 3 of them accepted and acknowledged by me." And so, Agnes and Geraldo continued with their children. 4 years later, on an unexpected day when Geraldo was having a family moment with his children, Agnes had gone to the supermarket with the children's nanny to buy groceries. Someone knocked on Geraldo's door, and to his surprise, it was Alberto, who was with his mistress, who was his wife and their son. Geraldo, at that moment, very surprised, said, "Alberto, oh, How long it's been since I've seen you since you separated from Agnes. And who is this baby? And Alberto, ashamed, said, I know I caused suffering to Agnes. And where is she? I want to apologize to her and at least have her friendship. This here is your grandson. I brought him for you to meet. Alberto, upon seeing the twins and the girl playing on the floor of the living room, asked, Dad, who are these boys and this girl? Whose children are they? And why do they seem to have a slight resemblance to Agnes, although I see they have your face? Geraldo confidently said, Alberto, they are your siblings, and yes, they are my children. They will inherit my companies one day, and unlike you, I will raise them as true good people. And Alberto, astonished, exclaimed, Dad, at your age you had children, and you got married, and you didn't even invite me. What ingratitude! And who is your wife? And Geraldo retorted, I'm not some old man. I'm still going strong. It's no wonder I swim, run, and exercise almost every day, and I'm in very good shape. I didn't invite you because my relationship with you was very bad, and there would be no reason to invite you to my wedding under those conditions. Alberto looked and saw the portrait of his father and Agnes dressed as newlyweds on the table in the living room. Amazed to see the portrait, he said, Dad, I can't believe you had the audacity. How could you do this to me, your son? You married my wife. At that moment, Geraldo left his children playing in the living room and decided to take Alberto, his daughter-in-law, and his grandson to speak privately and said, Alberto, you have no right to criticize me, nor Agnes. Don't forget that you cheated first, and I am very happy with her and with my children. You must accept it. You cheated on and deceived Agnes, and life, ironically, ended up bringing us together. You shouldn't even act offended to criticize me or Agnes. I'm happy to meet my grandson, but respect my union, just as I'm making an effort to accept yours. I even thank you for helping me find my happiness. Alberto, puzzled, asked, And that pregnancy of Agnes, were you deceiving me behind my back? Irritated, Geraldo said, Respect me, young man. Agnes has always been faithful to you as I have. I believed you were infertile, not that you had a reversible vasectomy. I was the anonymous donor for Agnes because I wanted these children to be a gift for you. But life had other plans. Alberto was astonished and had no moral ground to criticize his father, since he had betrayed his wife first and they got involved after the separation. After a frank conversation, Geraldo said, What happened here was all natural. I got involved with Agnes after the divorce, not during the marriage, like you did behind my back. Alberto and his wife couldn't say anything. That was the punishment life gave. Alberto, his ex-wife, was now his stepmother, and he still had 3 children with his father. And so, Geraldo bid farewell to his son and said, Avoid it. I don't want Agnes to feel bad about seeing you again. For Agnes and me to be happy, you shouldn't appear here. I'll never stop being your father, but as a husband and father of 3 children, I have my duties with Agnes, who is now my wife. I'll have a conversation with her, and whatever she decides is decided. If she says you shouldn't appear here anymore, I'll respect and accept it because now she is my woman, and I want her to live the best years of her life by my side. And I also want to be happy and raise my children with her, in peace and without disturbances. So Geraldo bid farewell to his daughter-in-law, his son, and his grandson. Practically, Alberto had no moral ground to criticize his father or his wife. Geraldo talked to Agnes about the visit from his son, his grandson, and the child's mother. Agnes told her beloved, He's your son. If you want to visit him and see your grandson, it's your right. My heart is yours now. You can see your grandson whenever you want. However, Alberto here in my house and in front of me, I never want to see again. Geraldo accepted Agnes's decision and said lovingly, Thank you very much, my love. I love you very much, and you can be sure Alberto won't appear here or in our lives anymore. I promise you. And so, the loving couple kissed and hugged each other. Geraldo saw his grandson, and over time, Alberto bitterly accepted his father's relationship with his ex-wife. Although he had no contact with his offspring, another request from Agnes that Geraldo fulfilled. Alberto stayed with the woman he loved, but life made Agnes his stepmother, and Geraldo his father, and he was very happy with her. They lived in peace. Life was ironic and sarcastic, putting everything in its proper place. If you enjoyed this story, leave your opinion in the comments, and of course, leave your like and subscribe. Activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. A big hug and see you soon.